Fense Post.
Good afternoon, Green Valley, and welcome to another edition of the Fense Post. My name is Jason Finstermaker. I am joined by my co-host over there,
Matt Nevels.
And we have two nice ladies between us. We have Dr. Julie Taylor and Sarah Swartz. How are you?
Welcome.
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
No problem. So this is probably the first, last time we had Dr. Welly on, we had a table full of educators.
That's true.
But not four at one time.
Right. Now we have four.
Yes. So I went from being the second rated teacher to now the fourth in one episode.
You're putting yourself awful high there. That's. I think you were fifth from the beginning.
Fifth out of four. That's about right. That's about right. That's where I like to be. But so we kind of met up and talked, and you ladies want to come on and speak on what is it, April 4th?
April 4th.
April 4th. We have something special going on. It is our citywide voting on many things. We're voting on aldermen, we're voting on bond issues, we're voting on school board, we're voting on a lot of stuff here at the local community, and you two are running for school board.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
It's very exciting.
And not very often do we have, maybe we do. Do we have former teachers that retire and then immediately run for school board?
I doubt it. They probably enjoy that time away and then decide to come back.
Yes, the punishment of teaching wasn't enough. Now I'm going to go.
Now I'm going to keep doing
it. But, I've always thought to myself, that there's not enough former teachers or in some case current teachers, right, on school board because too often you get people on the school board that don't actually know how a school operates.
Right. And don't know a lot about what it is that goes on in a school day to day.
Yeah. And so, which is good for somebody like me because then they don't know what I do, so they just keep signing that contract.
Right. And see, this is, maybe you need to be careful here because now, you're getting people that know what you do. They're going to be your bosses.
Hold on. So let's just get this straight, Matt. We had our boss on earlier this week.
It's very true.
And now we could potentially have two people that could
his bosses
and sign. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
All right, you're it, Matt. Go ahead.
You're out. No. This is a good thing because what we're doing here is we're getting the community to know the kind of people that we want on the board and the kind of people that we want running our schools. And I think, a big focus of the Fense Post is the Green Valley community. And I think the school's a big part of that. And we want good people running the show.
So I guess first and foremost, let's just we'll start over with you, Sarah. Just kind of go over your background, just your professional background, your family background, whatever that kind of ties you to our local community here.
Yeah, thanks. So yes, I think it's important that our board does have people through education on the board because there are things that, because this is my daily job, that I just am more in tune to and just more aware of daily practices. So with my position, I originally started out in public relations and advertising and realized that wasn't the gig for me because seeing tons of dollars spent in things that may or may not come to fruition was frustrating and found teaching way more rewarding than that. So switched over to teaching. I've taught at Kingsville when I did the entire 6th grade of 14 kids. I then came to my alma mater, Green Valley High School, and had the opportunity to run the journalism department there with yearbook and newspaper, and worked at the high school there, and then have moved to Independent School District where I met William Chrisman. I was an English teacher there, so I've had the ability of doing core teaching and EOC testing as well as electives, and those are both very different beasts in the nature of that. I was fortunate enough through a district the size of Independence that they paid for me to get my master's in counseling. And so there's just some different opportunities that larger districts can offer that I would hope Green Valley can start to offer as well as we become competitive. So they paid for my counseling master's. I've now been a school counselor for the past 7 years, so I've got another handle on the educational setting. So My other ties to Green Valley is, of course, I'm an alum, so
Yeah.
graduated right after you.
Yes, yes.
Because you're older.
I am.
Much,
I am.
much older.
Much older by a year, yes.
Yeah, where I met my husband in high school, and then we've only owned homes here in Green Valley. My son goes to Green Valley schools, and we are very pleased and honored that we continue to make the choice to live here. And this is where we have grown up and are growing our family up.
Nice. Nice. And Dr. Taylor?
Yes. We moved here when my daughter was in the 4th grade, simply because we wanted her to have the best education possible. We had heard great things about Green Valley schools, and so when we heard about all the things that Green Valley was doing, we said, this is where we want to be, and this is where we want our daughter to graduate. She's a 2018 graduate. She is very successful. I cannot thank Green Valley enough for all of the programs like A+, and her AP programs that allowed her to just blossom and actually graduate college in 3 years. So thank you, Green Valley, for that. My other ties here to the community are that I'm a former teacher of Green Valley High School. I was the English teacher there for 7 years. I was OSHVO, the National Honor Society sponsor, our cheerleading coach for our 17-time state champions.
Nice.
So got to see that side of it. Also was part of the building leadership team within our school, and have also been part of the different community aspects. You typically will find me on a Friday night or during the week at a game watching the students play and being engaged, talking to parents, because even though I'm no longer in Green Valley, my heart is still in Green Valley.
Yeah.
I love the school, I love our district, and I'm just looking forward to being a part of making it become even more amazing than it already is.
Now I know, both you in education, former education, that everybody that runs, and I don't mean this in a political statement, but I've always thought that every single person that runs for school board runs because there's something they're pissed off about. And I don't mean that, negatively, but I also, my educational background, I've been at smaller schools, I've been at bigger schools like Green Valley, but it seemed like every time in small town USA, so-and-so's running because they're mad at this teacher and they're gonna get them fired, or they're mad at this thing and get them fired. I don't feel that way at Green Valley. I feel that I feel we're doing enough right things that people are just like, okay, I want to help it move forward and add to it. So we'll start with you, Dr. Taylor. One, I guess the main question is, why did you decide to run and put your name out there for school board, and what do you see for Green Valley?
I kind of mentioned previously why I put my name in the hat for Green Valley School Board. It's just because I love the district that I've lived and worked in for so many years. I think that some of the things that I'm very passionate about is the aspect of our staff pay. When it comes to our teachers, we are having a hard time in retention as well as recruiting teachers, and we need to really look at all the schools in our metro area to see where do we fall and why are we losing the teachers that we are losing and what can we do to retain them. I love how Sarah brought up how Independent School District paid for her master's. I know that Green Valley does help in some ways support when our teachers do go back to school, but it is costly. And if you think about the money that we're actually making after benefits and retirement and taxes, it doesn't always leave a lot of room for us to grow.
Yeah.
And so thinking about not just our teachers, but our support staff, I feel like we need to pay them what they deserve. And so that's a huge kind of pillar of what I stand for. I think that another factor that
We're not going to disagree with that,
No.
by the way.
No.
Right now?
No objections here.
Oh, wait, right, sorry, go ahead. Yes,
I
yes.
can stop there.
You could stop there for us, but no, we
We
definitely want to hear
keep
more.
going. We want to hear it.
I think some other important factors are looking at the way in which our students are being prepared for the real world. I think that we need to look and we need to grow within our real learning programs and how do we bring our community in. I also am very passionate about having parents be a part of our schools. How do we get them in? How do we get them involved? Because when our students see their parents in school and participating and volunteering and things like that, they see that bridge is there for our teachers as well. And so I think that's very important. The mental health, and I'm going to let Sarah speak more on that one, is very important to me. The idea of bullying and cyberbullying is really picking up. And I think that we need to definitely look at that because our children deserve a place of safety and belonging when they walk in that door. And so whatever that might look like from that aspect for mental health, making sure that they have the resources they need, those are so important to me as a school board member. So those are just a few things.
Yeah, no, and you know, you kind of touched on something that you know, I remember as a former principal, I'd always tell my students that my teachers, if they don't feel safe, there's zero chance of us reaching them educationally.
Right.
Like, there is no kid that comes to school, feels unsafe, and then wants to care about whatever we're doing. Exactly. And kind of this, you know, with the same aspect, I like the idea of parent involvement, because too often with too many people, school's almost like a babysitter.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're shipping you off there. We don't want anything to do with it. As long as we don't hear from them, you're doing pretty good, you know, and that's kind of tough. I know as educators, you know, which we all are, that's kind of hard to deal with at times.
Sometimes we want a little bit more than that.
Yeah, and so, if the more parents that are involved and see what we do as educators too, kind of the more open they are to understanding, and then we don't get the backlash. You know, the residents of Pitchfork, Grain Valley, Page, you know, aren't lighting them up. Not that you guys do that. Not that we guys
None
do
of
that.
our viewers would do that.
No, not our viewers, not our tens of viewers.
No.
They definitely don't think about that. But I do agree that the more we can get involved, especially as a community like Grain Valley is, just the better aspect. And you touched on, you know, getting them kind of prepared in different aspects like that. You know, not college isn't for everybody. My brother didn't go to college, and he makes twice what I do. So, who really knows, you know, what's going on? And so, you know, I went to college not even to be a teacher, and so, you know, I know you didn't do that either. And so, you find your path differently, and encouraging kids to just learn. It doesn't have to be from college. Just keep expanding your mind is probably the most important thing. So, with that, Sarah, kind of same aspect. You know, what drew you to want to do this?
Yeah, well, and one thing to touch on with parent involvement is here's one thing that's pretty difficult with schools is we all went through school, so we all have an understanding of what that is and what that looks like.
Yeah.
So with that, it's hard to take off our own personal experience as to what's still happening today. And that's what we want to make sure we're listening to our current students.
Which you're old,
I am.
and school's different now.
It is. And we want to meet them where they're at. We want to support them where they're at. And then not only are our students changing, but then that necessitates teacher change as well. And so how can we continue to support teachers through that to make sure they have the resources they need, to make sure that they have all the things that they need to meet their students where they're at as well. So just, it's tough with education because we've all been through it, so we all have an opinion on it, for sure.
Yeah.
But working in education every day, seeing it every day, you definitely just look through a different lens. And the reason I want to run for Grain Valley School Board is this is something, it was, I always thought like, hey, I might do that. I might throw my name in that hat because education is important to me. It's part of my life. I live, my husband's an educator as well, and that's kind of the life we live, and that's a way that I feel like I can give back. I'm somebody that likes to serve others. I feel like I am good at listening. That's part of my main job as a counselor every day. Like I went to school for that.
That's what Matt does with me.
That's right.
You just
That's
sit there
right.
and
I didn't
listen.
go to school for that, but I still have to. Yeah.
So just knowing how to bring that open mindset, how to bring everyone's voice to the table so that it's heard equally, and then really focusing on the mental health needs. That's a forte of mine. I've said this in many different times in many different ways through the different interviews that we might have done or forums or question and answers of we all know that the mental health needs are high right now.
Yeah.
And we send our kids to school to meet many needs. And one of those is sometimes that's where their mental health needs are met. And that should be done or can be done through our school counselors and the mental health professionals we have in our buildings. We only have one social worker for our entire district. I think sometimes Grain Valley, we have a really awesome community that is so supportive in so many ways that sometimes it's easy to ignore that we have some of the same problems that everybody else does that still have needs that need to be met. Our
sure.
free and reduced lunch rate is probably underreported. And that's,
Which is in 90% of school districts because people are too
Correct.
embarrassed or too
Right.
whatever to fill it out.
If it's not for them, they think, oh, that's not us.
Yeah,
right.
and which
Yeah, we're fine. We don't need the help. We can
Right.
get by without it. But what that does is identify so many other programs
Correct.
that we can then qualify for, receive additional funding for, help children and families in different ways. And so just really being able to meet our mental health needs appropriately, address them with appropriate staff so that we can continue to get kids to a place where they're able to learn when they're in the classroom.
Yeah, so obviously April 4th is going to come up. You know, there's going to be many things on the school district. I know that there's going to be a bond issue as well.
There's the bond.
Just, I want everybody, and I'm adamant about this when it comes to voting, you know, definitely just vote, regardless of what you vote
Right.
for. I mean,
Just have a
it's you know, the foundation of our democracy or whatever is voting. But just understanding the facts, you know, they brought up some of those facts. They brought up teachers being raises. And I thought I heard them say we'd be the first district with a $100,000 base salary. Was that?
I think that was specific to you. I think they said that was just for Jason Finstermaker.
Nice. Nice. But understand, you know, there's also going to be a bond issue that is going to help grow the school as well. And those things aren't related, you know, and I think those people got to understand there's a lot of things we can do to fix the school, and I know you guys would both do those internally. There's things we got to do it structurally with the bond as well, or the voting as well. I know we've got aldermen up and stuff like that, so make sure you definitely educate yourself with those things. But I want to kind of go back to a point that kind of you both touched on. I think of this song, and I might be Cole Swindell that sings it. That
Please don't sing. You're not going to sing, right?
Hold on.
Oh, I can beep this out.
It was what was it? Breaking Up Was Easy in the 90s, right? It's a country song. Do you listen to country?
I listen to just about everything, but I do not know that one.
You don't?
I'm too young for that.
And the reason why I bring that up is because the whole point of that song is when you broke up with somebody in the 90s, you just didn't see him again. You might see him at school, but you don't see him with this little thing right here. There is zero separation between school life, home life, and any life. And you talked about mental health of students. I think that is the hardest thing for them is the disconnect. Yes, it definitely leads to, for sure, cyberbullying and issues like that, because back in our day, and I hate saying that, but back in our day, if you had a bad day at school and you fought with somebody, you went home, that was it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it was over until maybe the next day at school. Now, all their problems follow them everywhere they go. And it's very easy as a parent, as an adult, to say, well, when I was young, when you were younger, guess what? You didn't have to deal with that.
Right.
You didn't have to deal with that. So it's easy to say, well, I would have no, you don't know what you would have done.
Whole different ballgame now.
Whole
And we see
different-
that. We see that
yes.
every day. And we co-teach a class together, and we see the students that are struggling with these issues. And it comes into the classroom. We have to work through them before we ever can get to the academic side of things. And that's why it's a big part of what we do now.
Yeah, I was told twice. Well, it's Monday, but I was told twice last week. You know, a phone rang or something. The kid started. Well, it's my mom. Can I answer it? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It is 10:30 a.m. Your mom should know you're in school. You know, so like even
To be
sometimes-
fair, it really was my mom. I was trying this out. But next time I'll rein it in.
No, and so we, obviously we understand and we appreciate, I just appreciate you guys even willing to throw your name in the hat, and both of you have gone over what your platform is, and I just want to kind of give you because we've opened up. Anybody's willing to come on here, the tens of viewers and the multi-dollar studio we have here will elicit anybody coming on here. But I just want to give you guys just a little bit other to see if there's anything that we missed or you want to add to, one, just why people should vote, why you think they should vote for you, just getting out, why, whatever you want to add. We'll start with you, Dr. Taylor.
One thing I wish I would have mentioned previously is that I do have 20 plus years in education, and that's in the urban, suburban, and at the university setting. I hold several educational degrees. I have 3 masters and a doctorate in education. I'm a pure example of I never wanted to stop learning, and so
Professional student.
professional student.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so with that, I have really taken the experiences that I've had over the last 20 plus years to apply them in how I interact with the community, making sure that students understand that they are cared for and they are loved, to make sure that they are getting the very best education. We abide by state standards, and that is what we must teach by. And so by doing that, I can proudly say that my end of the course scores were some of the highest scores in our district. Actually, they were the highest scores in our district.
Yep.
And in some of the state. And so I'm very proud of that, is that I feel like I know what is best for students and how they learn. And so I would love to be able to continue to grow those relationships with our staff, with our parents, with our community, and with our students, to hear their voices. I think it's very important that we hear all sides of the story. Everyone comes to the table with a different story, and I think that it's important for us to be unbiased and to listen as opposed to making judgment. And so by doing that, we are able to maybe not always understand and agree, but I can hear your voice and I can understand where you're coming from. And that allows me to then go and reflect, take some time to do some research, and then come back to the table with a compromise that will reach all. And so I think that's one thing that's very important to kind of know about me as a school board candidate, is that I'm here to serve all people in the community. And I want to be able to hear everyone's voice. And so that idea of transparency that we've heard so frequently, that we're feeling from parents that they're not being heard at school board meetings, and through administration in the district, and different things that I've heard as I've been out and about for the last year or so outside of the Green Valley School. I think it's important that they know that in Sarah and I both, they have someone to listen, and to listen without judgment or bias, and just to come to the table to learn.
Nice. Kind of same thing with you, Sarah. Is there, anything else you'd like to add, kind of to just, I'm not going to say you're campaigning, but that's what you guys are doing as well, and should be, because you should campaign behind a cause you believe in, and the Grand Valley School District is a great cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Green Valley School District is a great cause, and it's very worthy of my time, and I'm willing to give it that. I currently give the Green Valley School District a lot of time in many different ways, through serving on my son's elementary PTA, through going to the steering committee meetings with developing our, the big rocks where the community involvement was involved, and then the listening sessions and those things. I want to be involved. I want to put the time, and I want to know and understand. And I'm going to listen first before anything else, because there are so many times when we hear something and our first response is an emotional response, because we may not understand, we may think something it just isn't making sense or isn't fair or is stupid, and it's like, well, hold on, let me understand where you're coming from first before I make any sort of judgment as to what's going on. And so that's the environment I want to foster for our staff, for our buildings, and for the school board, so that then those students can get that same thing. I really want to make sure that students are supported through all endeavors, and that we continue to offer all the things that we offer. There are so many school board meetings. Well, I haven't been to a school board meeting yet where we weren't recognizing students that were doing great things.
Yeah.
And that is the honest truth. Our kids are excelling at high rates. So then what do we look at? The school district has started to add different programs. We've started an esports program. There has been a program that I'm not sure if it's off the ground yet with trap shooting, but it's been approved. So who else can we reach?
Boys volleyball now is
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So those are all things like, how do we meet all kids? Because we know kids that are involved are then going to attend school more. Therefore, that was the one spot on our MSIP 6 scorecard that we were deficient on, or lower than expected. And so we know that kids that are involved are going to attend school. They have a stake in school. They're engaged in school. Therefore, their attendance will be better. When they're connected, they are more happy with the result of school and their connection of school. We don't want kids to just come to school and then go home. There's definitely a lot of opportunity that we can offer kids, and we can continue to offer kids, and I want to support that in all ways.
And I think that is, you touched on it, which is key. A student that just shows up every day at whatever, 7:35, and then leaves at 2:35, and is only there to learn, has a different experience than somebody that's doing 3 sports and involved in
Yes.
clubs.
Yeah.
And I think it's crucial that, you know, if there's something out there, we have a group of kids that want to do, how do we do that? Because it's definitely worth it. So I know, you know, April 4th's coming up. Make sure you do your due diligence. You read about our school board candidates. Yeah, I like these. Oh no,
That's coming. That's soon.
yeah. What store do you guys both taught English? I definitely did not. Definitely read up on all the stuff coming up. You know, I obviously Matt and I are huge when it comes to education. Obviously, being teachers at Grain Valley, and we know that if you two were on the school board, that would be a good thing. You know,
Yeah.
not that
Yes.
the other candidates could have come on too and said the same stuff, but you two decided to come on, and so we couldn't appreciate that more.
And I think it's important to say that as current educators at Grain Valley High School, we know that what we have here are 2 teachers that were beloved by their students, highly respected by their colleagues, and a great part of the community.
Yes. So for Matt, our guest, I'm Jason. Thank you very much for another episode of the Fense Post.
Bye.
The Fense Post.